Let's podcast. Alongside Joe Giglio, I'm Joe Ovies inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. New year, new savings for your small to medium-sized business. Get your stuff to the cloud. Cut down on print costs. It all starts with a simple visit to the website, copiers-plus.com. Also want to remind our listeners that their 40th anniversary is coming up this year. In business for 40 years, Joe. Maybe that could be us.
4-0?
4-0. In November. Think we can go 40 years?
No.
You want to be 80 doing this thing?
Your math is slightly off.
No, you'll be 90. Yeah, that's right. I forgot. You're going to be 50. Anyway, so in honor of their 40th anniversary, they are donating $500 to 40 organizations across North Carolina. That's $20,000 going to organizations throughout the state. So if you are watching on YouTube, I'm going to hold up the QR code that you can pause the YouTube and click on that, or just, point your phone at that QR code and you'll be good to go. If you are not watching on YouTube, no big deal. Just go to https://copiers-plus.com/40 years of caring. And in between 40 years of caring, put the dashes in and it'll take you to that website. Much like Joe Giglio will take you to Lenovo Center, where I believe, did you have a cot at Lenovo Center last week?
Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
Dang,
Saturday.
Dude.
5 days.
Dang, man.
5 of 7.
Wow.
I was talking to Joey Doster and I'm like, I know who I'm talking to, because he was like, are you coming to the Eric Staal ceremony and stuff tomorrow? I was like, look, man, I know who I'm talking to. Like, but I've been here 5 days this week. He was like, yeah,
that's fair.
I get it.
That's fair. I mean, I watched this. We'll talk about the ceremony a little bit later on in the lightning round. But let's actually start with some leftovers from the Saturday visit to Lenovo Center, where NC State and North Carolina put together what I would call a it was a fitting tribute to NC State and Carolina football, both in terms of the ugliness of play, very physical, all over the place kind of game, and also the stakes. These two teams are having very seasons, but you know what? In the triangle, it freaking matters to us. I can watch the ACC network and they'll go 4 games deep before they got to the NC State Carolina game on Nothing But Net. And shout out to Taylor Tannenbaum, who is doing, like, before Joel Berry can even say it, it's a rivalry, which was really kind of the genesis of a lot of reaction to what we saw on Saturday, Joe. And I got thoughts on the game. I shared some of those on the ACC Panic Room with Lauren Brownlow, but we got some calls to the OG Sports phone that can kind of get our conversation going.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
All right, this came to us from a 336 number.
The Raves. Keep crying, Pack fans. Those roads in Raleigh need the salt.
I appreciated all the salt in the road. It helped me get to Invisalign easily on Saturday and Sunday. I appreciated that. And then we've got
to be clear, that was a block. He blocked the shot.
Yeah, he blocked the shot.
Clean.
Oh, yeah.
I think people were confused about that rule, and I didn't realize it until I was listening to the game. And Wes said, you can only review goaltending if you call goaltending. So I would like for you. Now, I was there on Saturday. It was it was almost like cordial in terms of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
There was not, this was not, Wanda needing a police escort to get out of the building, height of the NCAA investigations.
No.
Like that wasn't what this was on Saturday.
There were no signs that said Roy knew. There was no signs that said Roy did sushi 9.
Yeah,
none of that. All right.
We had none of that. But I would like for you to imagine for a second, okay?
Because I watched the end of I watched the end of the game in the lobby of Invisalign.
I would like for you to imagine this scenario for a second. The only way to review goaltending is to call goaltending.
So they didn't call it.
But imagine if they had called goaltending
and then
gave State the basket. Everyone's excited. You're going to overtime because you know how they do this now in football. They either let plays go or they call things so that they can be reviewed. Well, imagine if this was the practice in basketball, that they had called the goaltending. The play was then reviewed and it was taken off of the board.
Oh,
Ron Groover, Jeff Clark.
I was going to say Cloggerty was there.
Cloggerty would not have been able to get out of that building. So it's probably for the best that they did not call the goaltending and there wasn't a review. All that being said, A, it was a block. I thought it was clean. B, my man Dontrez Styles traveled on the inbounds pass. Yeah. That's a stationary inbounds play.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they definitely got a gift there because they should have called the travel on Styles. So yeah, and they let him play. As you say, it was more of an homage to the football blood feud than anything else.
Hey, this is Josh, living in Honolulu. Just calling to say, how about that for a flag planting? Wolves down.
Okay. This is the thing that I found the most fascinating.
Well, first of all, Josh, thank you. Out in Hawaii?
I know. I love that.
Thank you.
I love that. I got to get out to Hawaii one of these days. Well, it's on my list.
I know why Josh lives in Hawaii.
It was that golf event.
It was the Sony Open. That was this week.
Had to be.
Shout out to Nick Taylor. Oh, Canada.
The Wolves down, to me, is the most fascinating aspect of what happened on Saturday. And I think it leads into our general thesis conversation for today. I have been watching NC State and Carolina play in some sort of sporting event now for 30 years, right?
More, yeah.
Or more. So I have never seen the Wolfpack down. Horns down, sure. I've never seen Wolfpack down. The U upside down, seen that plenty of times. I've seen Carolina do that to Miami in football, right? I've seen that happen. Anyway, the point is, I've never seen Wolfpack down until the Military Bowl.
Yeah, ECU.
When ECU gave birth to yet another thing that other schools will copy, because ECU loves to do that. You put the state of North Carolina, the outline on your football field, we did it first. So credit to ECU, where they gave birth to this move. Now, I can't think of many schools that are going to go out of their way to do Wolfpack down, Wolves down. I can think of ECU football, and I can think of NC and Carolina basketball. And there's a Venn diagram there that makes a lot of sense that both ECU football and Carolina basketball are the ones that would do a Wolfpack down. Okay. So I found this fascinating. And I thought it was, the other thought that I had was, under Hubert Davis, North Carolina, say what you want about them. It's clearly different than what Roy Williams does in terms of how they want to win basketball games, but also in how they go about winning basketball games. Because they did this to Duke at Cameron Indoor Stadium last year, where they went up to the Cameron Crazies and just kind of got the people going. Okay. And then now we see this, where they're clearly still bothered by what happened in the ACC championship game. They clearly do not want to be, as a group of Carolina players, and Hubert Davis in particular, to be the first Carolina team to lose back-to-back to the Wolfpack since what?
Well, only Matt Doherty.
The Matt Doherty years, which we never talk about the Matt Doherty years.
I was surprised when we got calls and mentions about that. I was like, oh, I thought we weren't allowed to talk about those.
So I found all of that fascinating, and I think it actually crystallizes the general nature of what NC State and Carolina are about. You know, I've long argued I'm really tired of the conversation. It's like a scene from Anchorman, where it's like, we've been coming to the same party for 40 years and we keep doing the same things. And in no way is that depressing. And I feel like the same way about the whole NC State Carolina. It's a rivalry. It's not a rivalry. To be abundantly clear, to say Carolina fans to tell NC State fans, you're not our rivals, is a feature, not a bug of the rivalry. Carolina fans know it gets under the skin of NC State fans to say it. It's all part of the back and forth, because clearly Carolina fans do care, because all you got to do is look at the timeline of the people in our mentions who leave comments. They talk about NC State a lot.
Sure.
And clearly they care because of the Wolves down and all that stuff. And obviously the reaction that we got on the OG Sports Front. So everybody understands that this is a feature of the rivalry, not a bug. I also find it really annoying that NC State fans think that in some form or fashion, by saying, well, if we're not your rival, then why are you doing the Wolves down? See, not a rivalry, though, not a rivalry. It basically gives me the same energy of back in the day when you would block somebody on social media and the reaction was, I won. No, man, I blocked you because you were being an asshole. And well, I clearly got to you, though. I'm like, nah, man, I don't want your energy around me anymore. So bye. You didn't win. I just don't want your energy. So it's almost like the same kind of thing of like, see, you do care. You do care. And it's like, yeah, man, they've always cared. Like, why? Like, this doesn't get you anything. So stop it. Just stop it already. So I found all of that fascinating, and I'm curious to see if the Wolves down will continue, or this is just like a weird blip to what we've had to start the year.
Missed opportunity for NC State, by the way.
Okay.
And we talked about this on opening night, but it was clarified to me by Eric Hoots, the Carolina. He's a guru. Hoots does everything over there. Okay. So we're on the floor before the game, and he's looking up, and he goes, why'd you guys hang those on opening night? And I was like, look, man, I'm like, if you haven't had sex in 37 years, you wouldn't last very long either. Okay. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. He's like, yeah, but you like could have held off on the ACC tournament banner until we got here.
Yeah. They didn't have to be both.
And I was like, see, I said, that's why you guys are next level. I go, oh, by the way, when State's over in Chapel Hill later this next month, which team's going to be honored? Is it the 5? I know it's a 5. Yeah. So are we going to honor the 05 team? I said, are you going to finally show some love to the 00 team for me? Will you honor the 00 team for me, please? He's like, well, it just kind of happens that way. And I'm like, sure, man. Sure. Yeah. Every single time State is over there, one of your teams is getting honored. As Paul likes to properly point out, we have a lot of teams to honor over in Chapel Hill.
This is true.
So that's fair.
This is true.
That's fair. I got some clarity here, though, going to this basketball game on this. I have a UNC flow chart here.
Okay.
And I think I get this now. I think I get this. I spent an hour with Paul. I saw Bubba. I saw Clint. I saw Hoots. Texted with my guy Brad. I feel like I'm in my Tar Heel Zen phase, if you will. Here's what I think. I think UNC's rival, capital R, is Duke. Capital R. This is basketball now. Okay. But you're seeing Carolina through the lens of who does Carolina believe they are pre-Bill Belichick. They see themselves as a basketball school. So naturally, recency being what it is, recency, the last 30 years, you look at your rival as the team in basketball, Duke, capital R, rival. Now, as Dave Doran misspoke and said, well, ECU, that's not a rivalry. I disagree. I think lowercase, add the RY, rivalry. I think if you're Duke, if you're Carolina, you have capital R, rival, Duke. You have a rivalry not only with NC State, Virginia, Wake Forest, ECU, Kentucky, and Kansas in particular in basketball. Even though you don't play those teams every year, you have a shared history with Kansas. You have this back and forth to see who's the greatest program of all time with Kentucky. So that's a rivalry, in my opinion. I think NC State is truly a blood feud at this point. Because I get it. When you look at rivalry, let's go to the dictionary. Merriam-Webster. Let's go to the dictionary.
This reminds me of when Jacob was a toddler.
You got to explain things?
And
he was trying to
No. He didn't understand that you could have more than one friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it was this really weird thing. He's like, well, he's no longer my friend. Now this person's my friend. I'm like, you can have more than one friend. And it was very binary of him.
And this is where I think using my Carolina brain by osmosis, you get to the third definition of rival on Merriam-Webster. The first one is one or two striving to reach or obtain something that only one can possess. Rivals, striving, competitive advantage. Number 3, equal, peer. Obviously, in men's college basketball, North Carolina and NC State have not been equals. They have not been peers. I get that. And that is part of that Carolina ethos of what makes us special. It's the bell. It's the well. It's Dean Smith, Roy Williams, Anson Dorrance, Michael Jordan, and our capital R rivalry with Duke. If you go back in the last 3,478 games played, Carolina has scored 7,426 points.
Right.
And Duke has scored 7,425 points. it always delivers. So when you're sitting here on a level legitimately of saying we're better than Auburn, Alabama, we're better than Army, Navy, we're better than the Yankees, Red Sox. Well, yeah, I'm going to look at everyone else, including Kentucky and Kansas and UConn. God forbid we ever acknowledge that UConn's in your stratosphere, and say, ultimately, I'm going to say, you're not like us because we have this. So I respect that. Truth of the matter is, your guy, your boy, as Hoots said to me when I was wearing Roback, got my swag. He goes, did Mondo hook you up with that? I go, no. I said,
we got our own deal, man.
I go, Ben's a state guy. And he's like, well, no wonder we don't have any of that because they're rocking Johnny O now. And I said, hey, man, I got my own thing with Roback. I said, nah, but your boy gave it away. When he said, I'm rooting for Duke, man, I got news for you. There ain't no circumstance where I'm sitting here looking at the team I hate the most and say, I'm rooting for you. So ipso facto, that means you hate state the most, and it's the blood feud. And if you call it whatever you want to call it, that's fine. Truth of the matter is, you care.
Well, now you sound like who I was railing against. We all know they
that
care.
was for you.
I know. We all know. The whole conversation is reductive, and it makes me feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like, for people who have been here for
people going.
Yeah, and I get that, and I appreciate that. I just wish we would just acknowledge that it is what it is.
No, it's a new for every generation.
What do we do Friday? What do we do Friday?
For every generation, it's different.
No. But here's what I'm getting at. What do we do Friday? What do we do Friday morning?
Oh, we were over at the arena.
We were over at the arena for what reason?
State and Carolina hockey. They compete, and they haven't been supported and involved. Roy Cooper, former governor, renamed their trophy for the team that wins the game on an annual basis. The specific Governor's Cup game, because they play more than once.
Yes,
for Roy Cooper,
which was amazing. It's awesome. Roy was very gracious, and he's, again, if you ever think his hockey stuff is fake, just listen to the man. He cares about hockey. Why didn't they do that? Why is the Governor's Cup played between NC State and Carolina for hockey?
Well, see, but now you're veering out of men's basketball.
Why is it? But I'm making my point.
That's their identity.
But I'm making my point here. Okay. Are you a Carolina basketball fan, or are you a Carolina fan? There's a distinction. There's a distinction.
Listen.
There's a distinction.
When you get out of that realm,
yes,
of men's basketball specifically.
Which gets to my point. If you're an actual for real Carolina fan, like somebody who actually gives a shit about the university, you care about Carolina sports, not just basketball. Not just you're driving down Fayetteville Street, you see the car with the bumper sticker that has the Cowboys, the Tar Heels, the Yankees. I don't know.
Maybe Alabama football. They might have scrubbed that now.
Maybe, I got no idea. Oh, and Lakers. You got the Lakers on there too, right? Like that, I'm not talking about that fan.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not begrudging that fan. They exist. Cool. Like what you like. I'm talking about somebody who actually gives a shit about the university. Once you get out of the basketball realm, as you're focusing on, I will simply make my point. When you get out of the basketball realm and you look at State and Carolina hockey, who play for a freaking Governor's Cup, 20,000 people showed up to watch them. 20,000 people. Roy Cooper, Governor Cup. 20,000 people showed up to Carter Finley Stadium to watch them play an outdoor game.
Yeah.
Okay. Not with Duke.
Yeah.
But with State.
But this is where we get back to equal peer.
Football.
Football is equal peer.
Football. Mac Brown's entire tenure at Carolina is not altered because of the Duke game.
Right.
Bill Belichick.
He cried.
I know. He was saving lives too. Bill Belichick's entire MO at Carolina will really not because beat Duke. It's going to be the State game.
I can't.
Okay.
Wait, though. I hope
when Carolina and State meet on the wrestling mats, when State and Carolina play baseball, you see what I'm getting at?
Oh yeah.
So I mean, if anything, what I'm doing is I'm kind of bolstering your argument in relation to it's a blood feud more than anything else,
right?
Because I'll just say it this way: real ones, no. And I don't want this is not meant to be a gatekeepy argument. I'm simply saying real ones, no. And that gets back to the general sense that if you care about Carolina and not just the singular product that is basketball, then you understand all of this shit is really, really silly. Let's continue on the sports phone, shall we?
We Carolina fans tried to tell y'all it's not a rivalry. Like, I get there's heat among the players, there's history. UNC Wake Forest used to be a rivalry. You don't see Wake Forest fans coming up to Carolina fans and being like, oh, it's still a rivalry, it's still Tobacco Road. No. They understand where it's at, and we're good with them. I don't know why NC State fans got to keep the smoke, because it keeps on going the same way. No consecutive wins since 2002, since Matt Doherty, since the first Bush administration. Okay, since UNC last cared about NC State. It's not a rivalry just because State beat us in an ACC championship game. Miami's done the same thing. Florida State's done the same thing. Those aren't rivalries. It's fine. We like playing them. But, if you need any more proof that UNC doesn't care about NC State as a rivalry, go look at Mac Brown's last 2 games against NC State and tell me they got up for it like it's a rivalry game. Anyway, Wolf's down, Giglio.
Man, here's the thing. You are not a student of history. Let's get those 2 out of the way, but then I do want to get to your point.
Yeah.
03 is the last time State beat them in consecutive games, not 02.
Yeah.
The first Bush administration was his dad.
Yeah.
Who followed Ronald Reagan, not him.
In 88.
So there's that. And also, it's actually not a rivalry for the players. That's where you have it wrong.
Yeah.
Because as we heard from Ian Jackson, as we heard going back to Joel Berry.
But real quick on the Ian Jackson thing, that was the shit-eating grin that happened when he said it. He knows what he's doing.
But as Joel had said before, while wearing his Alabama football jersey, which I have he had a customized Alabama football jersey while playing basketball at the University of North Carolina.
Wait, so was it his car that I saw going down Fayetteville Street with the Lakers bumper sticker too?
I'm just going to point that part of it out, right? Like, this is not exactly, but that's the whole point. When you're not here, you're not from here. You didn't grow up here. You haven't been here for 30 years. Like, I get a pass now. I've been here for 30 years. You don't get it.
That's why I say real ones know.
And you don't know the history. So I get that for the younger players and this current generation, as we talked with RJ Davis, who I thought put it beautifully.
Yeah.
We have our rivalry with Duke. We have our back and forth with State. Okay. So yes, but hey, man, that's what I don't blame the younger generation for not understanding. And again, we're talking about 30, 35, 40 years here where Duke and the rise, like, you want to get the real State fan out of me. The rise of Duke, the rise of ESPN, and the obliteration of NC State. That's the real part of the antenna up with, the exit of Valvano and the rise of K and how it was pushed by ESPN and fueled by ESPN. I understand why 2 full generations now think that way. No problems there.
All right, one more sports phone call before we move on.
Hey guys, I think I'm telling Giglio something he probably already knows, but let me explain something for him and other State fans. Don't get trolled by Carolina fans so easily. No actual UNC fan thinks you're not our rival. It is just the easiest way to rile you up in just 3 words. To watch it and y'all lose your shit is just pure comedy. My memory serves, it kind of started in 2011 as a way to troll State fans for absolute dominance back then. It was like 10 straight, and obviously hasn't changed much lately. But if you're going to get trolled by something like this. Heads up, State fans. While you are 6-39 or something like that in the last 45, I think you're 4-11 in the last 15. That's a good job, guys. All right, go Heels.
And I agree with, I believe that was Sean. That's an 804 number.
I like that. Heel splain.
I like that. And I do appreciate when Sean heel splains. And he is absolutely right in that you do get trolled easily by this whole thing. Like you get trolled easily by this thing, the whole Carolina thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't understand why.
Well, but isn't that a part of it? Isn't that all of it?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. If anything, it kind of...
You need me on that wall.
I guess. Like, just as much as you need me on that wall to just explain, like, yeah, guys, this is part of it. Like Sean was saying, like, don't take the cheese, you know? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you sound like now you're back in parent mode. You sound like my parents when I used to love the show.
But that's what this is. It really is.
I
It
understand
is a
that.
sibling thing. So sometimes you need somebody, you need the adult to come in and be like, knock it off. I will stop this car. Okay.
I love the original Batman television series when I was growing up.
Yeah.
It was obviously on in syndication.
Mm-hmm.
My sister Jessica knew this, and she would sing because it was like and like she would sing this to me and say "Fat Man."
Yeah.
And I was like, don't you call Batman fat? I would get so upset about her calling him Fat Man that my dad finally was like, you understand she only does it to get a reaction out of you. And I was like 6, 7. I was like, I didn't quite get that at the time.
I mean,
so clearly I've advanced so far.
My brother's going to be 30 years old this year, and I still have to have that conversation with him when he texts me about something my dad has done. I'm like, you understand why dad did that, right?
Yeah, man. But 35 years ago, when I got to NC State, didn't know anything about either one of these schools. I remember sitting in UT. It wasn't my dorm, but my buddies, and all my friends.
You were not in the room where it happened, right?
Punkett Shear and the Carry crew, the Carry High Till I Die crew. They had friends. That was my first interaction with Carolina fans.
Yeah.
They would come over and we would talk, and it was about like the recruits the next year because State was always so bad. And then it was like Lakeista McCullough happens, and then that's what it's all about. Having those moments, having your pockets, and that's why last year was so important for NC State. That's why winning actually something other than a Lakeista McCullough one-off game. You have to have something to go back and forth with. The triggered part is when they act like football doesn't exist.
Yes.
Because again, getting back to that Merriam-Webster definition, equal peer. We've done this a million times. We've showed you since 1953 when the ACC started, the two programs were nearly identical. Mm-hmm. So equal peer there, I get it. But yeah, I'm quite proud of myself for coming up with that capital R rival thing with Duke. I was thinking about that a lot this weekend.
Hard R rivalry.
Yes. Don't get us in trouble.
Housekeeping.
No, trust me, I'm not trying to get us in trouble. Big
and
thanks.
Shouts to Paul.
Yes, I was
for helping me out. That was part of our mission was to have a Carolina voice. I didn't realize he was an employee of UNC.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey man, let's not do anything to get in trouble.
That's
not why we're here.
Yeah, with all the cursing and whatnot, as I'm watching, that was not my burner account, by the way.
That's exactly what you should say. If it was your burner account.
That's what somebody who had a burner account would say during the afterburn. No, I had jotted down for housekeeping to a big thanks to Paul.
I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah, no, Paul knows what he's doing. He had visions of doing what we did or what we're doing, and he's smarter about it than we are. So,
so many people are smarter than us.
Way smarter. I mean,
it's humbling.
Yeah, I had yet another parent ask about that sort of thing for like their 16-year-old. I'm like, tell them to do something else. Get out now. No, but big thanks for Paul for stepping up on Saturday, filling in for the After Dark. The hockey gods and the basketball gods were not playing nice with me at all this weekend. Did you end up having hockey on Saturday? Oh yeah, no, we had a game.
Okay.
There was a game. And again, I watched the end of it while I was at Invisalign. So we'll have another After Dark, next Monday, right? For Duke.
No, you got some time.
Duke
there.
State, right?
That's the 27th.
The 27th. Okay, so that's the next one that we're going to be doing, the 27th. I don't even know what day it is, man. But I do know this. On February. Well, did I mention Inovana? I have not mentioned Inovana.
No, hit it.
Big thanks to Inovana for sponsoring our housekeeping segment.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Inovana.
So we have Joe's dream event taking place February 5th at Sully's Golf and Gather in Garner. Again, February 5th, that is a Wednesday. We're going to be out there in the evening at Sully's Golf and Gather, I should say. And it's $50.
I like Garner. Yeah. I mean, 50 Drive right next to our friends at Nature's Relief.
That's right. So
right there. Help yourself out.
So $15 entry per person, and there's going to be 2 contests with cash prizes.
Correct. So this is in honor of the WM Phoenix Open.
Mm-hmm.
Even you casual golf fan remembers the par 3 on the 16th hole at TPC Scottsdale. Shout out to Nate. I stayed right behind the TPC Scottsdale during the Final Four. Okay. The 16th hole is where they throw the beers. When you get a hole in one, they throw full ass beers. And they built up. It was when Tiger Woods was 97, 98. Like, it was a long time ago. But now it's become a whole event. Okay. So 16 is this unbelievable stadium course par 3. We'll have that closest to the pin. 17 is a drivable par 4. So we'll have that set up, and we'll see who can either drive the green and or who has the furthest drive, long drive. So it's a closest to the pin, a long drive competition. They have unbelievable food, beer, all those good things there. So $15, come on over. We'll throw some money in a pot. We'll have some cash prizes. We'll make this thing work.
Speaking of Garner, big thanks to our guy Matt Davis over at State Farm. Matt Davis is living his best life because while NC State and Carolina are arguing about the most mundane things, meanwhile, Cooper Flagg is dropping 42, setting ACC records, and looking like the class of the league.
And that also helps me understand the Carolina mindset. That, as someone said, the goal is not to be in State's stratosphere. It is to be up there. Even though I would argue you would not take Duke's results in the portal era.
We'll get to that a little bit later on. Big Matt Davis savings, though. Just call him right now, 919-779-8277. InsureGarner.com or the OGinsurance.com. You can help you save on home and auto. It was really freaking cold this weekend. So you know what that means? I was breaking out the home field hoodies. I got the home field hoodie on right now. Fleece line, super, super comfortable. And a good base layer, while I think it was colder in Wake Competition Center than it was outside.
I could see that.
Much, much colder. But regardless, you can go to homefieldapparel.com right now. Use that promo code OG24. We're in the midst of basketball season. They got new basketball drops coming up for the rest of the year, or the rest of the season, I should say. But in the meantime, get those hoodies. I know, Joe, you were rocking the Wake Forest hoodie last week. The Deeks fans, your Deeks.
My Deeks, yes.
People were hype about that.
Screen grab, sent Steve Forbes a text, said, hey, man, need to get you on the pod.
Yeah, and speaking of Garner, I'll be headed there tonight. I will see the Hometown Realty sign. You can see Hometown Realty to buy and sell with confidence. So contact them today at myhtr.com. New construction is the move. There's new construction going up everywhere, but you might not know about builder incentives. So those are things that you can contact myhtr.com about. And of course, if you are going to be closing on said house, well, contact our friends over at Whitaker and Hamer. wh.lawyer is the website. Attorneys and counselors at law. After watching the Wildcard Weekend in the NFL, Joe, my only takeaway is that the Steelers, the Chargers, what else we got? The Broncos, honestly, I think it's an indictment on their conferences. They shouldn't have been in the playoffs to begin with.
They should not have been invited.
They should not have been invited.
Where were the Cowboys?
Right.
I mean, give me the Brands.
Y'all see how dumb
the Giants should have been in.
You see how dumb the argument is now?
I mean, the Jets, Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean,
he's the baddest man. And who's to say he can't get hot at the right time?
Exactly. And he's the one everyone's talking about too. Like why are we leaving out these big storylines?
Amazing. I would say this about the NFL Wildcard Weekend, which was kind of meh, but they had pre-baked storylines that all you needed to do was stick them in the oven and reheat them. It's kind of like a butcher's market pre-made meal. Put it in the oven for an hour and you're good to go and you can start eating. And those two pre-baked, pre-made meals ready to go were Justin Herbert conversations and Mike Tomlin conversations. Where would you like to start? On the Chargers, no-show, Jake Delhomme-esque 4-interception performance by Justin Herbert and the Herbert Hive, or Mike Tomlin?
Start with Herbert, because I said on the OG Gambling that we did last week, I said, Houston did this last year to Cleveland in the same exact spot. Mm-hmm. Houston actually does have a legitimate defense. I know their offense has struggled down the stretch.
They do. The defense was fantastic.
Yeah.
I think what's going on with Justin Herbert is there's online football brain, and then there's like how people really talk about the NFL. When you talk about the NFL, like with another human in person, there's not a lot of time spent talking about Justin Herbert, in my opinion. I know that's kind of anecdotal. It's who you don't get too caught up in your little bubble and whatnot. But I feel like the Herbert thing is very much an online Rorschach test of, are you a football knower or are you not? Are you a tape eater who looks at the granular all 22 to tell you that Justin Herbert has the highest per air yard completion rate of any QB in the third quarter with 3 minutes and 48 seconds left?
It's a lot like listening to Jimi Hendrix if you're white, right? Like white man can't jump. You can't listen to Jimmy.
Yes.
His drummer was white. That
Right.
was my Colin Cowherd without doing
It
my
reminds
Colin
me a
Cowherd.
lot of White Man Can't Jump.
Right. No, we're getting a taste of this with Bryce Young,
Yes.
right? And we got
Yes.
some of it last year with
Mhm.
the highest rated passer on fourth down in any game this year in the fourth quarter of a completely meaningless football game.
Yeah.
Was Bryce Young. So that's where we're in. That's the family we're in right now. So we're getting a taste of that.
Penn State has had a player in the Super Bowl every year, except these 2 years. So that's kind of where we are with Justin Herbert, who's a fine quarterback, but sometimes you got to let it cook. And obviously, as you're finding out, maybe Ladd McConkey is not your number one.
Maybe it doesn't need to. I'm going to steal some Diet Squirt real quick.
Okay. So while you're doing that, I do think that part of the conversation when it comes to Justin Herbert is the same thing we have. It's the bring the same energy. Okay. Everybody makes an excuse for Justin Herbert, but if that were, say, Dak Prescott in the playoffs and has that kind of performance, well, what's happening? How are we talking about it, right? And I think the same thing happens transitioning over to the Steelers. I think the same thing's happening with Mike Tomlin. And Tomlin, if I asked you straight up, no context, who would you rather have as your head coach? Mike McCarthy or Mike Tomlin? What's your initial reaction?
Mike Tomlin.
Do you know they essentially have the same postseason record at this point? They both have Super Bowls.
I was going to say, if my memory serves me correctly, Mike McCarthy's one Super Bowl win is over. Mike Tomlin.
Yeah. So they both have a Super Bowl, and then when it comes
One
to
at the expense of the other,
and recent postseason success, I'm pretty sure Mike McCarthy has more wins in the postseason than Mike Tomlin does. You got to go. Speaking of presidential administrations, you got to go back to Barack Obama, and it's been a long ass time since Barack Obama was in office. So the thing is, I think here's what's happening with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. This is, to me, an indictment on how we get bored with stuff. Like, What do you reward? What are you looking for? Are you looking for sustained winning, getting to the playoffs? The problem with that, with Mike Tomlin and the high, what I would argue is a high floor for the Pittsburgh Steelers, is that having a high floor but low ceiling gets you nowhere. It essentially puts you into an odd purgatory. The Buffalo Bills were in this situation, and their GM got roasted at the time for saying it. We're not good enough to compete for a Super Bowl, but we're also not bad enough to put ourselves in a position to get a franchise-changing QB. So let's advance this to where we are with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're good enough to get into the playoffs, but that doesn't do you any good. It doesn't put you in the position as the Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs to be able to go out and get your next QB. Speaking of the Chiefs, there's also a lot of Andy Reid in Mike Tomlin. After a while, okay, things get a little stale. It doesn't mean you're a bad coach. It just means that you've had a great run at this particular spot. Maybe you need a little bit of a reset, different voices around you. If you're Mike Tomlin, you probably want a better team around you to give you a quarterback or a better plan or whatever it is. So you're not out there going with the husk of Russell Wilson at the end of the season. And then next thing you know, Andy Reid went from, oh man, the guy who never won one, to, hey, now he has Patrick Mahomes and he knows how to win Super Bowls. They're going for the third straight Super Bowl this year. So there's a little bit of Andy Reid too with how we talk about Mike Tomlin, that it's just going to end poorly in Pittsburgh, but that doesn't mean he can't land somewhere else and go.
I think you're missing the obvious comparison.
Okay.
That is Bill Cowher. One of the great tricks Bill Cowher ever pulled was staying with Pittsburgh when he was offered the NC State job and was legitimately going to take it.
We did it first, Carolina.
He was legitimately going to take it, but decided otherwise. Okay. Because remember, in 99, the Steelers went 6-10.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And it was, he had been to the Super Bowl in 95. Very similar pattern. The trick that Cowher pulled was he was able to win his Super Bowl title in his second act. And this is a very specific Steelers issue because only the Steelers have the patience willing to give their coaches a second act.
Yeah.
In all other professional leagues, teams, sports, no coach gets a second act without a Super Bowl or a championship ring. You just don't. And even in the case of the Eagles, that I'm still flabbergasted by, they told Doug Peterson after winning the Super Bowl to kick rocks.
Yeah.
So it is a very specific Steelers problem that you're illuminating here.
Yes.
Bill Cowher found a way to power around and through it. But
that was a different. But that was a different.
I was going to
NFL.
say, remember what was concurrent with Bill Cowher was his inability to break through against Tom Brady and the Patriots.
Yes.
Now, some of that Tomlin has butted up against, for sure. That's been some of it. But now he's in that second era part where he's lost his quarterback in Roethlisberger. They've transitioned to a different, he had the hubris to hire Matt Canada and think he was going to call plays for him.
Yeah.
Right? Why are the Steelers so good at drafting defensive players and so bad at drafting offensive skill players other than receiver? They've a very good track record of drafting receivers. So you have to ask yourself, well, why does this keep happening? And to your point, they're always kind of good enough, but they're never great.
No.
And they haven't been great in the post. Even at the end of Roethlisberger, it was clear to everyone but them.
Oh, he lasted 2 seasons too long.
I was going to say that the 1 year where he came back, it was the pandemic year, right? Where they started like 10-0. That should have been his last year.
That should have been his last year, yeah.
Should have been his. Absolutely. They should have shown him the door after that. So here you are. What do you do if you're the Steelers? As I've seen proposed, I think it was Jimmy Johnson who proposed it. You trade. The Cowboys and Steelers should trade coaches.
That.
As if Mike McCarthy. You keep comparing him to Mike McCarthy, though, and I'm just kind of like,
I can't stack them up. Give me the tail of the tape. Give me the tail of the tape in terms of postseason success.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike McCarthy's won a playoff game more recently than Mike Tomlin. I mean, if that's what we're basing this on, if the playoffs are the litmus test for actual success. And again, it gets back to my general thesis of this segment, is that I think what's really happening here with these overall opinions and how we talk about Justin Herbert, how we talk about Mike Tomlin, is checking people specifically online or in the take business. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you think Mike McCarthy's this hack that needs to get the hell out of there. Well, then explain to me why ... We think Mike Tomlin's like, anybody would be lucky to have Mike Tomlin. Well, then how come you don't talk about the same way with Mike McCarthy? Because we pick our guys. Again, that's what it always comes back down to. We all pick our guys. Same with Justin Herbert. There's an online contingent that's decided that Justin Herbert's our guy. Fair. You don't understand football like I do. I can tell you he's the best quarterback, sure. blah, 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 blah,
but
blah.
He was with Green Bay and Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers the whole time.
It helps.
And won one title. Like,
okay, it's hard to win.
I don't disagree with that.
It's hard to win. You know? I mean, Andy Reid had Donovan McNabb, for heaven's sake.
Not the same as Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers in their prime.
Fair enough.
No.
Fair enough.
No.
Now he's got Patrick Mahomes making up for it.
Yeah. Not only won one title, but only got there once. And remember that the classic. If only they had built the dome in Green Bay, maybe Mike McCarthy's got more than one. Because you know why Mike McCarthy has one title?
Mm-hmm.
They were the wild card, and they were on the road, and they played a bunch of games indoors, and they won their championship indoors too. By the way,
oh, you're still on that thing. You sent me this reel from back in the day when the Vikings played outdoors, and I'm like, yeah, now they're indoors, and they haven't won.
Did
shit
you watch
since.
it? Obviously, you didn't.
No, they had like a flamethrower. Right, it was a
Awesome.
flamethrower on there, man. That's insane. It's like something like somebody concocted in their backyard. Like somebody's grandfather's like, I got an idea.
Make it work.
I did this back in the war. I got this. I'll say this though, because here's the thing about the Steelers going forward. If you do stick with Mike Tomlin, okay.
You're talking about the Steelers. They're not firing him.
They're not going to fire him. Oh. So you stay with him, but then are you prepared? Like, let's say next year goes in the tank, right? Because really, what are their options?
When does he gone in the tank?
Well, let's say he does. Will you be okay?
Wouldn't that be better?
My point is,
wouldn't it be better if he went in the tank?
That's my point. If Mike Tomlin was allowed to go into the tank, would he get the second act? That would be the official start of the second act. Because it would put him in a position to go get a quarterback.
I think the second act was this post-Roethlisberger era.
So here's my other question. Have they screwed up? If you're going to ding Tomlin, has it been screwed up in that, as you mentioned, the offensive coordinator situation with Matt Canada? Because you can see these reclamation projects take place. Geno Smith was a reclamation project. You've got Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold with the Vikings. They tried that with Russ.
I was going to say, Russ was fine this year.
He was okay. Or should they have stuck with Justin Fields?
Their defense fell apart at the end of the year. That's what actually happened to them.
Yeah.
Their defense stopped. I mean, straight up.
You mentioned Doug Peterson, the Eagles, and all that stuff. They fired Doug Peterson, right? It looked like Nick Sirianni was as good as fired earlier this year because of all the drama. And they took care of the Chargers, and their defense is on
Packers.
one.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Why did I write down Chargers? Packers. They took care of the Packers.
Not only took care of the Packers, they just kind of dominated the Packers, made them look silly.
Yeah.
I've already hedged my Lions bet now with the Eagles, so I feel better about that.
Meanwhile,
they look good though.
Meanwhile, going back to the Steelers, are the Ravens going to do it?
Ravens are good too.
The Ravens did the thing that you have to respect. They had an entire drive where they ran the ball. They did not pass it a single time. They ran the ball every play. They put it in the Steelers' ear, if you will, to make it abundantly clear that we're better than you and we're going to pulverize you.
To be clear, I'm still mad at the Ravens for last year.
Okay.
I respect that they went out and got Derrick Henry. I respect the way that they won that playoff game. And I suspect that will be the way they try to beat the Buffalo Bills, whose defensive front is just not Super Bowl ready. I think we all want the Bills to get there. We all want the Bills to win. Most people who have no affiliation would like to see the Bills finally come home.
That's
right. The mafia to finally get there.
How can you root against Lamar Jackson?
It looked like a movie clip. Like, when I'm gonna give Cars. You watch the movie Cars? You're a little bit too old to watch Cars, but anyway, for kids, I was a kid when I watched Cars. That's all I'm saying. But when Lightning McQueen just flashing past, and then it's like that's how Derrick looked when he was running past, and all those guys it looked like a movie, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'd rather be watching it than being on the opposite side of the ball. I know that.
Too old to watch Cars. You're never too old to watch Cars.
I respect what they did in going out and getting Henry.
Yeah.
I suspect they do beat the Bills this weekend. I suspect, though, they run up against the Chiefs defense in that cold weather. I think the Chiefs defense takes care of them.
And then you got the Commanders over the Bucks.
That was the best game of the whole weekend. I actually stayed up last night and watched it.
That was the best.
Because I was watching Baker and I'm like, how is he going to? Oh, there it is. I'm like, how's he going to screw this up?
And look,
it was a great game, though. I mean,
good game.
Speaking of, stumbling into something, and I get it. Jaden Daniels won the Heisman Trophy, blah, 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 blah. But the NFL is filled of a history of people passing on quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels that high in the draft.
Yes.
He's a baller. He is just a straight up baller.
This was amusing from Todd Bowles. He was asked, how do you contain Jaden Daniels?
And on defense, how do you limit Jaden Daniels?
Got to get him in long third and longer yardage. Got to win first down. He keeps getting out of the pocket to his left, to our left, his left. I mean, our left, his right, and we got to cut that down.
Jaden Daniels had him in a blender, man. He even know left from right.
So the play of the game is 3rd and 1. Perfect play by the Tampa Bay. Defensive lineman shoots right through, has Daniels down to hold him for a field goal, to get the ball back, and potentially drive down the field and force overtime. Stiff arm.
Yep.
Daniels picks up the first down, run the thing out, kick the field goal, win the game. Sometimes it's just that simple, man. The Matt Rule fantasy land. I'm just going to draft another Mahomes.
Real simple.
I'm not saying he's Mahomes. I'm just saying he is a difference maker.
Well, let's settle down. I mean, again, seeing which rookie was going to break through in the playoffs is always you saw with Denver, right?
Yeah. I mean, him and Knicks, though, I pushed back on rookie. They were in college for 5-6 years.
That's true too.
And I mean, 2 different stops. They already are familiar with changing offenses.
Yes.
Changing coordinators, changing cities.
But we also understand it's different once you get to that level. You're not beating up on
30 years ago. I'm more inclined to believe you.
Okay.
But the way that football has changed.
Yeah.
The 7-on-7ification of football.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I understand the speed of the NFL defenses. I understand there is a difference, but this is
coaching's better.
I kept listening. So it's the same way I listened to Cooper Flagg, who we'll get into after his unbelievable performance against Notre Dame. They're talking about Bo Nix, and I'm like, guys, he's 25 years old. Yeah, this isn't some 21 year. This isn't Lamar
He's
Jackson.
not 18.
This is not Lamar Jackson coming in at 21
right.
and no experience. This is a grown ass man playing football.
Yeah. Big thanks to DraftKings. Check them out. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today. Use the promo code OG24. I did see this. Saquon Barkley was put in a position to score a touchdown, and instead he did the heady football play and just.
Well, you know how I feel about him. I lost a parlay early in the season when he did that. No, it was a play that was overturned.
So apparently more bets were placed on Barkley to score a touchdown against the Packers than were placed on any other player in the 3 playoff games. Barkley to score a touchdown was the 3rd most popular leg of a lot of these parlays. And with Philadelphia leading 22-10 with 1:09 to play, Barkley took a handoff left tackle, burst through the Packers defense into the clear before electing to slide after picking up the first down. And people were very, very upset about this. Very upset about this.
All right, let's go to the.
But how did it work for you? How's it working for your parlay here?
No. That was, remember week 1. I had that like 12-leg cockamamie touchdown score,
right,
and all I needed was him, and he scored, and then they overturned it, and then they did the push. Here we are, Giglio's ticket, Chiefs Lions. Can you see?
I can see it.
Am I taking it yet?
You're not cashing out on it? No, don't cash out on it. Come on, man.
253.
Don't be a quitter.
It went up by $15 without them playing this week. We're getting close, aren't we?
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Because I'm starting to believe in the stupid Eagles, and I don't like myself for it.
Don't do it. Nick Sirianni is going to pop up at some point. That's why I don't think the coast is clear on Nick Sirianni.
That game will be indoors.
Yeah, I don't think the coast is clear on Nick Sirianni yet. That's why I brought it up. But regardless, scoring touchdowns, look, as we know, it's key. It's also
it's important.
It's kind of key. It's kind of important. And it's also really fun to do and easy to do with DraftKings. So if you're ready to place your first bet, try betting on something simple like a player to score a touchdown. Just not Saquon Barkley. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook and make your pick today. They're an official sports betting partner of the NFL. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use that promo code OG24. New customers will get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. It's only on DraftKings. So you can score big by getting on those TDs at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. So again, use that promo code OG24. New customers who bet $5 will get $200 in bonus bets instantly with our friends at DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball.
What are you laughing at?
I should probably let the Roback ad clear first, but they might enjoy this.
Maybe they will.
Back in the day, you would promo certain things, maybe even the old 919 Vice podcast. And I would be in the car and you would be talking about craft beer.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't enunciate craft,
sounds like crap.
It sounds like crap beer. And I would always be like, Ovies, why are you pimping this crap beer? I don't understand what you're doing.
Hey, look, there's a saying crap on tap.
So when you just said TDs are very important, it sounded slightly like
titties.
Those
are important too. I've got them. Can you milk me, Greg? So, yeah, I mean, just saying.
Woo!
All very important. Look,
you want to make all your Carolina friends jealous? Get that Roback swag.
You want your man titties to look good and comfortable? May I suggest the Roback? Because they're super comfortable when I have my Roback on. I was rocking the Roback hoodies over the weekend. Joe's got his Roback quarter zip on today. You can go to roback.com and use that promo code OG20. Man, Pen's going to love this read today. OG20, save 20% off your order. I am on my Happy Inhale diet. Thank you very much. Went and got the Bueno Bowl last week because Lord knows I need some roughage coming out of December, to say the least.
Take a break. Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hill.
We'll take a hockey break in the lightning round. But in the meantime, head on over to Happy and Hail. Download the app to make it super simple for you to get in and out. We get it. You're busy. You need to pick me up like the Allman Brothers. When I was headed home the other day, I texted Jacob. I'm like, hey, dude, you got a double practice today. Do you need that smoothie power? He's, yes. Get me that strawberry banana deal. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'll probably be doing that today after I pick him up from school. And head over
also
to the
rink.
app
makes it really simple. Happy plus Hail.
Super
for real. It's order it. You walk in, boom, pick it up, walk out like you own the place.
Big thanks to our friends at Breeze Through. Check them out online, breezethrough.com. It's Joe Giglio's home away from home. Getting coffee in and out, man.
This week was something else. We're going to be over there on the 23rd. We're going to do a true pregame. Hurricanes pregame.
Do you really want my old radio to come out?
We're going to do a true, what are we calling it? I mean, we can't call it certain things that other people call it.
No, we can't do that.
The true pregame,
although
though.
we could call it the old thing that I remember I pointed out to management. Hey, you know, when you came up with this name
with
when you came up with the name for this back in 2000 or whatever it was, and the internet wasn't as prolific as it is today, and there wasn't any social media. Yeah, you get away with that. But when you use the hashtag, I would say go look at the things that come up with that hashtag.
So how about this?
Yeah.
Billy Joel had an album, the same name.
Yeah.
Let's call it either the Downeaster Alexa.
We didn't start the fire.
Or we didn't start the fire.
That's what we're going to call it. We didn't start the fire. We didn't start the pregame.
Boom.
There it
we
is.
didn't invent the pregame.
Yes, there it is. There it is. Nailed it. We just had a meeting.
Where's Rand?
We need a meeting. We need somebody to sing us a song in the style of Billy Joel. We didn't invent the pregame.
Either way, that's us. And you decided we are live that day at 4-ish or 5-ish. How do you want to do that one? Adam's good either way. I'm saying parking lot.
You want to be in the parking lot?
Yes.
The Breeze Through parking lot.
Yeah, like we did for the state.
I mean, I would do it at let's do it at 5.
5.
Let's do it at 5.
Okay.
That makes the most sense.
So Canes, Blue Jackets that night, 123. That's a Thursday. I'm putting 5p on the calendar. OG live. Butcher's Market OG live.
Can you bring me Slave and Sunday while we do the pregame?
I can bring you the lemon blueberry.
I need the pregame with my lactate before that.
Oh, dairy-free, non-dairy Brookio this month.
I'm in for that.
Yeah.
So head on over to roosters.com. They got their rotating flavors. More importantly, if you're going to be going to some Canes games, I know they're not back in action until Wednesday, all their home games in January. But by all means, take advantage of, honestly, the best. We're not just saying this. The best deal in the building is the Slave and Sunday. You're not going to get the bang for your buck the way you're going to get with the Slave and Sunday. So head on over to roosters.com to find out more. Let's get into the lightning round, shall we? Because we do have a lot to get into. And the lightning round is brought to you by Sam Jones. Check them out in downtown Raleigh, or hey, might be in Greenville. Go over there. It's the blood feud that brings NC State and ECU together, but we can all just break cornbread and discuss. So head on
their cornbread, though.
Their cornbread.
That old school. Yeah.
Yes, I like it.
Yeah.
But their sides are fantastic.
It's a vehicle.
And that's exactly what it is. It is a vehicle to put the pork on top. It's fantastic. Let's start. Speaking of the Canes, you spent a lot of time over at Lenovo Center this past week. I know
much time. You know who's coming to life? Svechny.
He is finally
starting to see some signs.
He is, but is it wrong of me to have had the thought in watching how the Canes lost in overtime on a soft goal that I thought it was actually a very fitting tribute to the captain years of Eric Staal on Eric Staal jersey retirement night? Is that wrong? Like, am I an ass for thinking that?
In the old days, I would have tried to beat you to Twitter to make that joke. in the old days.
Okay, so I'm not the only one who thought that.
No, it was for my first. Well, they were losing when I turned it on third period.
Yes.
And
And
I
then
was
Jarvis
And I'm thinking to myself, really?
on stall night.
Not even the stall night. The Ducks.
I know the Ducks aren't
stink.
great. Yeah.
Like, and then the Ducks were dressed like the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
It took me a minute to figure out who was who in that game, and I'm like, ugh, gross. Of course, they rally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the both of those goals they scored to tie it in the third period were like postcard, picture perfect. They make postcards anymore?
Yeah, they do.
Okay,
They do.
beautiful goals, both of them, beautiful goals. Tie the game, get to overtime. I love that 3-on-3. Give me Natchez and Aho on the ice over anyone in the even Draisaitl and McDavid. Like, just give me those two in that big ice sheet. Just give it to me. Inject it in my veins. I'll take them every single time. Unfortunately, unable to get that goal, and Anaheim comes down, gets their goal, and leaves the Canes with a loss on Eric Staal's night.
So the only thing that would have been more appropriate for Staal night would be that was the last game of the year. They lose it in overtime,
Right.
and the point that they get just wasn't enough
to get him into the playoffs.
get him in the playoffs.
That would have been a true homage.
And then you get Ron Francis to do an exit interview. Say, well, if we had just kind of turned some of these games back in October and November around, we were right there. No big deal. And then we get into the Pittsburgh Steelers mode, and that you're just like there. You're not tanking. You're not terrible, so you can't get a good draft pick to change things around. But you're also not great in competing, so you're just kind of in this weird doughy middle. That would have been very appropriate. Now, look, all jokes aside, I think what we're illustrating here is why it was beyond time to honor Eric Staal. And we spent some time talking about this last week. I appreciated Mike Sunheim's time last week, the VP of Communications over at the Carolina Hurricanes. If you missed that episode, it was from Wednesday's show last week. And I would implore you to go back and listen to it if you missed it, because, and I know Luke DeCock wrote about this on Sunday, it's one of these things that through through time and processing, the Hurricanes really didn't have much of note. And Kelly pointed this out to me, that she remembers, because I was pointing out the things that Eric Staal did to kind of help the Canes get into national conversations, right?
Mm-hmm.
I forgot that he and Cam Ward had shown up on TRL.
Yeah.
Young pups back in the day, the new fresh faces of the Canes, the new fresh faces of the NHL. They showed up on TRL, man.
That's what happens when you win a cup.
Yes.
When you win a title.
Yes.
Yes. They were young.
Mm-hmm.
Rookies.
Mm-hmm.
Rookie in the case of Cam, second year in the case of Staller. So, I think it's cool, but part of the issue of honoring him had to be he had to retire. Remember, they saw him in the playoffs.
No, I get that.
2 years ago.
No, I get that.
One of my great moments was seeing Jordan, his brother, after that playoff series where the Panthers had swept the Hurricanes. Remember, and it was a super close series. Sergei Bobrovsky was unbelievable. Then they get to the Stanley Cup Finals, and Vegas turns Bobrovsky into a pumpkin. And I had saw Jordan Staal over at Raleigh Country Club.
Yeah,
and I said to him, so will you? It was the Stanley Cup was still going on when I saw him. I said, so will you go to the game, whatever, if they win and go celebrate? He's like, no. He's like, if they win and he gets when he gets his day with the cup,
you'll hang out.
Absolutely. He's like, but no,
we're still playing. We're still competitive.
No, they had just lost. And he was like,
that's what I'm saying. They're still competitive.
That's not my spot.
That's what I'm saying. They're still super. The point that I was making, it ties back to the start of the conversation. You still care. Sibling rivalries.
Oh, yeah.
Still care.
Oh, yeah.
You still care.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
Speaking of Jordan.
All right, guys. I wanted to call and talk about the Kings because I think they got a great idea here. Leading up to Eric Staal's jersey retirement, Jordan Staal went on a tear. He had 5 points in 2 games. Here's what I'm thinking. We get to playoff time and we retire Jared Staal's jersey just to get that juice back. And if that works, I don't give a shit that he didn't play on the team. We retire Mark Staal's jersey just to keep those juices flowing. Got to squeeze every little ounce out of him that we can. And if he does good enough, he can go up there with his brother. All right, guys. What do you think?
It's almost like you follow me on Twitter.
Wait, did you make that point?
Oh my gosh. I was never been more proud. I made it. Well, this is like happening in real time. You ready?
Yeah. Hit me with me.
First of all,
hit me with it.
During the game when Staal scored his 5th goal, he had 4 goals in the first 40 games of the year.
By the way, what were the
5 in the last 3?
Well, I made this joke. I made this joke to somebody with the Canes on Friday. I said, "What were the odds? Could you get odds on Jordan Staal hat trick that night? Like, what were they?
Oh yeah, they were
like 8 million.
Yeah,
plus 8 million.
So on Twitter, that during the game, because I was there, I said, they should retire. They should retire Svechnikov's brother's jersey before the playoffs.
There we go.
And then after the game, I actually caught up with at the end of Rod Brendamore's press conference.
Wait, Jordan is playing. Is it possible?
Try it again.
Wait, Jordan is playing. Is it possible that you could find some other family members, numbers to retire, maybe closer to the playoffs?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I have to think about that one. All right.
He's out. It's like, okay.
No, he liked that one. He did like it. He was like,
good.
He was giving me the, yeah.
Well, look, that's an off-season conversation. Ha ha Joe, how is Cooper Flagg doing this? He's only 18 years old. He just turned 18.
That's how he's doing it because that
was it.
This is the maturity in his game. He went from 17 to 17, turning the ball over against Kansas and Kentucky. 18, 42 on Notre Dame's head.
Are you ready? I hope people are ready to revisit my conversation about whether or not Duke's going to go undefeated in league play.
It was Norlander who was down again. Norlander had him down for 3 losses. I do think they'll lose 1 game.
At Clemson's probably their best one. I know you called that one. That's the tricky one.
It could be, but their head will be on a swivel. Wake is the one that I'm currently kind of thinking might be super desperate. Wake needing something to put in their back pocket. Talented team. So we'll see. Look, what they did. They struggled a little bit with Notre Dame. They needed those 42 points.
They did
from Cooper Flagg in a noon game. Second time they've played a noon Saturday game. Tell me Mike Krzyzewski is no longer the coach without telling me Mike Krzyzewski is no longer the coach. But these noon starts, I'll stand by what I think Duke needs to be to win the national championship, and I do think it is Con Knippel being their leading scorer, but Cooper Flagg being the bus driver. Obviously,
he's clearly the bus driver.
Obviously,
he's clearly that.
But
the way they're playing defense, if that's the
defense, particularly in the second half, you're seeing as please try to remember these things when people want to fire John Shire in a year, because I feel like I'm the one who has to defend every coach on the planet because no one else ever remembers that they make adjustments and they do things to help their team.
Yeah.
When you play better in the second half, as a general blanket statement, that's coaching. Okay.
Yeah.
And the way that they've been able to defend, particularly at home in the second half, I'll say it again, that travels. Cooper Flagg banging corner threes and feeling really good in Cameron, that doesn't travel. But the defensive effort and the way that they're communicating on defense, and getting after teams on defense, even when it's clear they're not going to lose.
That's the thing.
Showing that hunger and motivation when it's clear you're still going to win no matter what. That's the sign of an elite team, and that's what you're seeing from Duke.
That's what I keep getting back to with Duke, and maybe it's because of having freshly watched the State Carolina game and whatnot. And it's just like, these are just 2 very middling defensive teams, and I'm being kind when I say they're just 2 middling defensive teams. Duke gets after it, defensive and rebounding too. Again, that's another one of those things where I know that Hubert Davis, we have enough data now to know that Hubert Davis is not going to run things the same way that Roy Williams does. That was the whole point of evolving from where Roy Williams was as the head coach. But you can also see that they don't create a lot of turnovers and they're not pulling down the boards. Duke is doing all those things. And that's where I think defensively, we can get caught up in Cooper Flagg and all that stuff. The one through line for John Shire, since he's been the head coach at Duke, is they will defend. Now you combine that with the level of talent that you have in Cooper Flagg, and to your point, Con Knippel hitting some threes, piece that all together. Yeah, man. That is a Final Four contending team.
Topic, stack it up. Giglio's roll back it up. Well, I know what we'll do. A lightning round.
The college football playoff final is set. We're going to spend some more time talking about this tomorrow, but I did want to kind of highlight and set the table for the college football playoff, where we have Ohio State versus Notre Dame. What everybody assumed we were going to get when the college football playoff started up, and also leads to the question, who are we actually rooting for in this situation? Like, this is suddenly everybody a Notre Dame fan just to shut Ohio State. Are we going to get, can we please facilitate?
No, you do not ask for that.
Pat McAfee.
Do not ask for that.
McAfee has to facilitate a Lou Holtz, Ryan Day lead up between now and the 20th. He has to do it.
If you think there are bandwagon fans for the Yankees, you think there's bandwagon fans for Carolina basketball,
Notre Dame, baby.
You think there are bandwagon fans for the Lakers,
Notre Dame.
You ain't seen one single thing yet if Notre Dame, for the first time since 1988, wins a national championship. As I was only half joking with Bubba Cunningham on Saturday, I hope you all go to the game. You, Boo, Nina, Kevin. I hope
Jim Phillips.
Jim Phillips. I hope you all go. I want you to wear your current school's pullover, and all of you should have either a gold hat, or, as Luke pointed out, a shamrock belt. Whatever the Skull and Bones Society signal is. I hope you all go, because that's your school. You should all go. You should be happy. You haven't had a single thing to celebrate since 1988. Football gods, remember, it's not a double year. Do not give them this. I hope, if you've never seen anything like the bandwagon that will form, like Notre Dame winning a national championship.
So you just mentioned the ACC connections to Notre Dame. Do we get to, the ACC gets to claim this, right?
Riley Leonard,
right? You got a former Duke quarterback as your starting quarterback in this championship game. You just mentioned all of the ADs and people in position of power at the ACC that went to Notre Dame, the Skull and Bones Club. Stolen valor, right? The ACC gets a little bit of this, right?
I think Northern Illinois is the one that gets to do the victory dance.
Which I'm glad you brought that up, because that also means Dave Doran gets to celebrate this one if Notre Dame wins.
Not because he used to coach there, but because they beat Northern Illinois this year.
It's a twofer.
Both? He gets both?
It's a twofer for Dave.
Oh.
And you know how much Dave loves a shamrock belt or anything, any sort of belt with some stuff on it. So, he because that's where Dave's entry is, right?
Yeah.
He's like, you and your shamrock belts and whatnot. Northern Illinois is a real hand in the dirt school.
I'll say this. I don't think this will go the way of the Alabama national championship game back in 12.
Okay.
Notre Dame's not completely outmatched by Ohio State. Ohio State does have better skill players, and quarterback's probably a wash. What Texas was able to do to Ohio State's receivers, Notre Dame is obviously going to try to copy. You know who calls the defensive plays for Notre Dame, right? Al Golden.
Oh, that's right. Oh, geez.
So I would just say to you, there's a reason that Ohio State is the favorite that they are. Is it in play for them to lose this football game? Absolutely, but I suspect they win a tough fought game, but they win because they are superior at the skill positions. And quite frankly, Ohio State's defense, we have not talked about their defense all year, and it's no longer the year of the Wolf. So I won't even say it, but I am happy for Caleb Downs and Gary Downs. Gary Downs, NC State running back, two pretty good sons. One, Josh, tearing it up with the Colts right now. Caleb has been an eraser, has been a difference maker for the Ohio State. So I actually will be rooting for Ohio State.
Big thanks to our friends over at Nature's Relief. You can check them out at naturesreliefhempstore.com. Again, that's RELEAF hempstore.com. They've got edibles, they have pre-rolls, they also have alcohol alternatives, which I know is a big trending market right now. And it goes beyond dry January. A lot of people are just kind of reassessing their relationship with alcohol, but they also still want to, recreationally enjoy their weekends or drink something socially while they're hanging out, and they've got that stuff at Nature's Relief. I've been converted, man. Like, I absolutely enjoy exploring all the various drinks that exist now. That kind of seems to be like my wheelhouse right now.
This is also not some sort of one-off. They're at Holly Ridge, they're in Morrisville, Garner, Smithfield, and of course, where we did the show from, the Raleigh Western Boulevard location right there near the arena. So please go check them out, all their different locations, and don't be intimidated either.
No.
Like, you go in there.
They're super friendly.
If you know what you want, cool. They can handle that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're like, hey, I need help with sleeping, I need help with, like you said, an alternative to where I'm sitting at a party and want to feel a little bit good.
Yeah.
They can handle that too.
Sleep is important. It's all about wellness, including our friends at O2fitnessclubs.com. O2 Fitness is more than a gym. And look, the gyms are fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But with Renew Physiotherapy, Loop Nutrition, and making sure that you are living your best life, O2 Fitness Clubs comes in clutch.
O2 Fitness, so much more than a gym.
You're going to Renew this week, right?
Absolutely.
Get that neck work.
I got the Theragun treatment last time.
I want to get one of those. I know they have like a whole bank of them over in Seaboard.
But it kind of feels better when someone does it for you.
I'm not going to do that for you.
Because they're like, and you're like,
get in there.
Because it's almost like you want to give the stops. Like, if you were controlling, you would probably stop.
Mm-hmm.
But since it's like, you're like, no, power through. I can do this.
Keep going. That's good stuff. So go to O2fitnessclubs.com. Also, big thanks to our friends at Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. Bugsbite.com is the website. You can bundle and save. I know it's freezing outside, but you know how North Carolina is. It's going to start getting warm. The bugs are going to start coming out. You're going to be worried about mosquitoes. The spring will be here before you know it. So come up with a plan. Go to bugsbite.com.
Hayes made the trip out to California.
Yeah.
With the women's basketball team.
Nice win for them, by the way.
And he showed me the picture. He was chilling. He had his
Roback?
Drunk Wolf Roback.
Nice.
And I was on with Mark Packer on Friday.
Yeah.
So he showed me the picture of me being on the ACC network on Friday. He was chilling out.
Yeah.
We have a new deal cooked up with Hayes and his new plumbing and air conditioning adventure that we're going to be seeing soon. I feel like it's going to be super radio-y. I feel good about this for you. I feel like you're going to feel this new thing in your blood.
It's going to make me feel some type of way.
It's going to make you feel whole.
All right, let's get out of here on some Hey Joe questions. Let's go back to the OG Sports Phone.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports Phone and curse or don't.
Oh, yeah, we have actual takes from the NC State Carolina game.
Hey, Joe and Joe. That's Todd Wilmington. Apologies if it sounds like I'm on the wing tunnel driving back home. But I had a few thoughts about the NC State Carolina game yesterday. One, I think the Final Four run for NC State may have set back program a few years because you now have to keep Kevin Keatts for a little bit with his extensions. And that play that was apparently drawn up at the end of the game with 20 seconds left, that was awful as a basketball fan. As a Carolina fan, I thought it was great. But I want to know you guys' thoughts on that.
Yes, that was from a 919 number. We are back into the Kevin Keatts can't draw up a play discourse, even though last year Kevin Keatts could draw up plays. What's the difference, Joe?
Yeah, I mean,
can't quite put my finger on it.
No one would have ever thought of a dribble, handoff, use a screen. Taylor needs to pull up and take the shot. Also, the play was to go to Marcus Hill, but Seth Tremble's a really good defender. He gave the ball up, so there we are. Again, they should have called a travel on Dontrez Styles even before play. But yeah, cool. The winning. Think about what you just said. Even though you said you're a Carolina fan, winning the ACC and going to the Final Four set the program back.
Think about how that's Let's process that. Set them back. Yeah, there is a trope that exists because I've seen this with Hubert Davis as well. From say like Duke fans or Kentucky fans or whoever's like, I hope they keep Hubert Davis because that's good for us. Like, okay, fine. Like haha, you won something. That means you're stuck with the guy. Like, that's not how it works. People are still enjoying the win. This actually, I do think this ties into the end of the game, though, from a 3-3-6. And I know you pointed this out on the After Dark. Regardless of the outcome of the game, my seatmate and I had a question all year. Can anyone on the state team dunk? Today did not give us any data to say they can dunk. Love the show.
Yeah, the frustrating part watching that game for me was State was dominant early on the glass, but could not get any putback second chance points because they just struggled so mightily around the rim. And Ben Middlebrooks had 14 rebounds in this game.
Mm-hmm.
He was very active.
He was.
He's a very useful player, but his inability to take a step and go to the rim and even attempt to dunk. You remember Caleb Martin when he was at State?
Yeah.
There was one play every game. Of course, everyone knows who Caleb Martin is now. He's been in the NBA for 10 years.
Yeah, but at the time,
right?
nobody, right.
At the time, it was like, who does this guy think he is?
Right.
There would be one time every game where he would try to take off from like 1 foot inside the free throw line and dunk on somebody, anybody, everybody on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Never came home,
Mm-hmm.
ever.
Mm-hmm.
But every game he would try it. And you were like, I don't understand. Well, I need Caleb Martin to call up Ben Middlebrooks and be like, hey, man, I don't need you to take off from the foul line. Just bring the thing up and throw it down.
This is from a 619 number.
Yeah, not really sure how you go and win the steals, rebounds, and block shots battle in the first half. Pretty much control everything, outplay them in every aspect, and still just you shoot 22% from the field. That's crazy. That said, really well coached game, I thought, especially in the second half by Keatts. Thought your best opportunity looking back at it would have been to at least go into halftime with the lead. A little controversial there at the end. Really what I'm looking forward to now is I want to see, after all that taunting at the end of the game, I want to see any player on this roster ever try and scoff at this being a rivalry again for UNC. Because they're not that good either. Credit to them for winning as much as I hate it. But if they don't care after this one, I don't know what to say. They're just hypocrites because they're celebrating out there like they just won the ACC tournament, which they didn't. Go Pack.
I'm telling you, man, losing that ACC tournament game, like I said at the jump, losing the ACC tournament has certainly kind of broken something with North Carolina. I'll say this about North Carolina. Are they that good? No, they're not that good. I mean, the record indicates that when they've gone up against better competition, they're coming up just short. They're missing that one something. However, at the time, Ian Jackson had not come on. That's been the biggest development for North Carolina. What does Jalen
Washington look like going forward?
Let's hold off on that one.
Yes, his scoring has not been there, but he did have 4 blocks. He's had 9 blocks in the previous 2 games. So he's at least helping you in that way.
If it's gotten through and they're comfortable with Jalen Washington gets into the you can affect the game in other ways territory,
particularly rebounding,
then maybe I'm here for that conversation. But we've seen these, one game heroes play out for all sorts of teams that you don't necessarily hear from them again. I mean, heck, we're not that far removed from Isaiah Evans over at Duke being like, if this unlocks Isaiah Evans, look out. I'm like, nah, man, he balled out against Auburn. It happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Jalen Washington had a hell of a game against NC State. I'm not going to try to extrapolate that going forward unless it does spark and it finally clicks for him. Hey, man, you know what you did at the end with that block shot? More of that, more rebounding, that sort of stuff.
If he can be helpful, as we talked about at the beginning of the year, a useful player, it makes them a different team. Not a completely different team, but a different team. The real issue there for them is now you're kind of remolding on the fly because you Ian Jackson's the bus driver. How do you now maximize what Cadeau and RJ Davis can be? Because both Cadeau and RJ Davis are liabilities on the defensive end. That's how State got back into the game in the second half. They were being isolated on pick and rolls. That's coaching, by the way.
What?
Yeah.
Weird.
Hey, Joe's lifelong State here, so addicted to sadness, pain, and mediocrity. First of all, thank God Ian Jackson is only going to play college basketball 1 year because He's disgusting. Number 2, as soon as Keatts called the timeout with the chance to tie or win the game, I knew it was over. We were going to get 20 seconds of frantic dribbling followed up by a last-second prayer that, oh my gosh, didn't work. When does it ever work? He needs to get out of his own way and stop screwing us over when what we were doing for the previous 6 minutes of basketball, playing fast-paced, worked. He slowed the game down and gave it to Carolina. I mean, we can't make shots either, so it doesn't all fall on him. If we could get one guy that could make, please, maybe 35% of his shots from behind the line, we could maybe win games. We could maybe win games. Shout out Ben Middlebrooks, though. He did what he could.
Yeah, this is not a team with 3-point shooting. Yeah, you know, Kevin and I do not talk basketball strategy, but
why not?
I could tell you that Roy Williams was famous for, if he felt like the team was in a good position, he would not call timeout.
He'd let it rip.
He would not always, but there were times when there was a panic when he felt like, I will call timeout. But mostly, he would prepare the team to say, okay, you know. Now you got to remember who Kevin learned from. He learned from Rick Pitino. Okay, Rick Pitino, pretty micromanager,
little hands on in those
it's a little bit. It's not Sidney Lowe with the whistle and the stomp and the.
But it's all in what you want, because let's also not act as though Carolina fans weren't getting on Roy's ass for not calling timeouts. Okay, and Roy would fight you up
until Drake May.
Yes.
Then it was, oh, okay, cool, your way works.
Yeah, funny how that works, right? All right.
Hey, long time listener, first time caller here. I just wanted to call in and ask, can we go ahead and extend Kevin Keatts again already? I mean, seems like we can compete with the big dogs now. We only lost to UNC by 1 point. The stadium is sold out for basically every game. It definitely doesn't only get sold out when UNC comes to town. Seems like we're doing pretty good. I think we should keep Kevin, maybe sign for 5, 10, maybe even 15. Let's just get a lifetime deal going, huh? Lifetime deal? What do we think? Yeah, just wanted to call you, Joes, and get your opinion on that. Kevin Keatts lifetime deal, maybe? Huh? Maybe?
I appreciate the sarcasm of that call. That was from a 336 number. You know what? No notes. Just chef's kiss on the sarcasm on that one. Maybe you need some notes on commercial real estate. You've got a bunch of stuff like I do. Maybe you're going to find yourself in a situation where I said, Joe, it's time. I put up enough sound dampening foam in this room. We need a proper studio. Our folks at Keller Williams can help us out. The Donnelly team, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, give them a call. 919-616-8681. A lot of people going back to work. And I get it. This is a very specific niche that we're looking for here in commercial real estate. Yes. But I know our audience. And I know there are people out there we do need a bigger space. Mm-hmm. It would be nice to shorten our commute. It would be nice to not have to deal with an old, damp, 1970s space. Hey, let's upgrade.
But I still want wood paneling. Can I still get wood paneling?
You could still get wood paneling, but let's upgrade. Okay. So that's where you call Team Donnelly. Brian and Julie, they do an excellent job. 919-616-8681. You can get more information at triangleNCcommercial.com.
All right, let's go to Twitter. We've got Colin. Year of the Wolf. What did it cost? Everything. I love a good Thanos meme.
Still a good trade.
Right. It's you guys want to change. I saw what you did with the thumbnail for YouTube on Saturday before I got to editing. I saw what you did there.
I took some good pictures when I was in DC.
From JP, Giglio has never been more right. He implored us to take UNC money line, and now I owe him a beer.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that, man. Plus, the money line wasn't terrible. What was it? -160, -170. It wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, once it was a 1-point game, I was like, oh, a 2-point game, I was like, oh.
And finally, one last sports phone call. I thought this would be the most appropriate way to end today's show.
Deborah and Yao. Your boy did it. Double D Dave Dorn started recruiting like Bama. He got an Alabama player in the portal in year 13. when you hired him, you wanted him to be like Bama. So he did. Enjoy your Chardonnay tonight. Peace.
Alabama type recruits.
They literally got one.
I had the same exact thought. That wasn't me on the call, but I saw that. I actually texted her.
What did Debbie say?
Well, every time I bring that up, she's like, you know what I meant.
Who they get? I don't even know who they got.
They got a linebacker from Alabama in the portal.
I'm so checked out on football stuff right now that I don't know what's going on in the portal.
For good reason, man. We'll get back in
Right,
football mode soon enough.
Once we get to July, when I'm on my flight back from whatever vacation we end up taking this summer, and I start getting ready for ACC kickoff, then that's when I would have.
We'll find some football. Yeah.
That's what I've been about. Anyway, that's going to wrap up for today's show. Anybody can podcast on a Monday. What the hell are we going to do on a Tuesday?
Woo.
Find out.